you don't understand the market. If you don't take that time, you will regret it. Maybe not in 6 months, but a year, 2, 3 down the road, because you're going in one direction right now based on what you think. And if you knew more about the market, you might go this way instead.
Welcome to Connect to Market. I'm Casey Cheshire. Join us as we learn from marketing leaders who are driving founder-led growth. We're sponsored by Ringmaster, building B2B podcasts and communities to reconnect you with your audience. Okay, here we go. The Spotify wraps are in, and if you had known about this episode, or maybe next year, this particular episode will be your #1 episode. You might even listen to it on repeat. I'm so excited. When I saw the topic and who I was chatting with today, I couldn't wait to get into it. Rolled the sleeves, learned. We talk all about connecting to buyers and to the market. And man, we have forgotten to talk about the topic that our guest is going to speak about today. So I'm excited for this one. But who is he, Casey? Well, he's a fellow community member. You've probably seen him in breakouts or in the roundtable sessions several months in a row. He's also a B2B SaaS marketing leader and thought leader, GTM expert, brand strategist, a revenue accelerator. He's got decades of experience in the SaaS world and hospitality tech, all sorts of places, billion-dollar product portfolios, VP of marketing at Virdee, David Schnepp. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, man, you are a busy guy. I don't know. Like, we talk again in a quarter, and I'm going to have like 9 more things to say about you.
Yeah.
I'm ready to roll my sleeves. And I was kind of teasing the audience saying like, hey, we're going to talk about something good, because I know we've talked a little bit about it already. But in order for me to ask you the first question, I've got to go ahead and put on this giant blue foam finger. And I got to ask you, David, what is the #1 thing that marketers need to do in order to connect to the market?
Well, I think that the #1 thing, and it sounds cliche, it's to know your market. And it's kind of one of the basic things. It's like, it goes to, people say, well, everybody's a marketer. And if they hear me say this, they're going to be like, yeah, no duh, thanks a lot. But especially as marketing leaders, we often get bogged down in hiring experts in PPC and referral traffic and SEO, but we don't really stop to think about, do they know the industry? Do we know the industry? I've heard and I've seen it across, not at Virdee, but because I run the marketing there, but I've seen it across other industries, other jobs I've worked at, where the leaders will pay a lot of lip service to, we know our market, we know our customer. Well, we have our co-founder and CEO going and visiting potential clients, visiting, talking to, so we're in the hotel industry, right? Talking to the guests at hotels just randomly, listening to friends, to family, whoever it is, right? Go ask your mom, hey, you stayed at a hotel. What did you like? What did you dislike? So I kind of really you have to become a nerd. You have to be an absolute nerd about your industry before you can have a true impact. And that then reverberates through not just marketing. That is true for product. That is true definitely for client success. It's for sales. It's for every single aspect. You want everybody in your company to be a nerd about the industry and to understand what are the decision makers in the industry thinking and what are the users in your industry thinking. And that's true for whether you're hospitality, where you're making computers, cell phones, whatever. It's really one of those things, and it's fun. It's fun to learn more, to listen, and to really be a sponge. And here's the thing. It doesn't end when you think you know it and you just started in this role or new industry and you're like, okay, cool, got it. It's constantly evolving. You have to repeatedly go and learn more. I'm traveling in 2 weeks to see not even potential client. It's just random, doing some research, staying at a hotel, understanding how they're doing things. It's kind of like a boutique place instead of a Marriott or Hilton or something.
Yeah. I hope it's in Hawaii.
No. It's just a quick trip down from Austin to Houston. So fortunately,
Okay.
I can't convince myself that that's worth a budget to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to fly to, it'd be nice. It'd be nice, but I'm going to go ahead and
Maybe in 2026.
I'll put that in the budget request.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but like repeatedly doing the research because man, there's so many things to unpack with this, and maybe before the repeated side, just that fact that like a pod called Connect to the Market, but we haven't had a guest, we haven't had an expert say, well, do you actually know the market ever? Yeah, we talked about the individual, but the pond that they swim in, do you even understand it? Why do you suppose so many marketers exist and without this, without even considering it?
It's not just the marketers. I think it's everybody, right? You get bogged down.
Yeah.
Think about all the startups out there, and then I'm not saying we're perfect. We've kind of you get into this hair on fire thing, and you just kind of forget to take a step back. You have to take a certain percentage of the time you're budgeting for your job, and make sure you're not missing what's going on, what's changing in the industry. One assumption from 4 years ago, I'd heard certain things but repeated again and again and again. Doesn't mean it's still true, right? You've got to go. And I think that's the main read, regardless if it's marketer, CEO, product manager. It's we get so caught up in the day-to-day, right? Because as most companies nowadays, they're running razor thin. Everybody's 100% utilized, right? And so it's like, well, I've got this report to finish. I got this, this, and this. But we've got it, and it comes from, that's why it has to come from the leadership, right? It has to go from the CEO down. It doesn't matter if you're a 100,000 person company or a 10-person startup. It needs to come from the leadership and trickle down. This concept of you can take that time, because guess what? That's going to pay dividends later. It's going to mean the product you build is better. The marketing you put out there is more effective, right? When your CS team is talking to the clients, they're not having to ask all these probing questions because they already know, right?
Right.
It makes you a true expert. You want everybody in the industry to be at some level considered an expert in the industry.
Even yesterday, I've heard the conversation. We just don't have time to become an expert in the industry. What do you say to that?
You're gonna fail. Not necessarily. Not. Let me correct that.
I don't know. It's kind of cool.
That's being a little too blunt. For a 10-person startup, that might be true, right? But what you're going to end up not being is number one, right? You could continue as a business. You might do okay, but others are going to pass you because they're going to understand the needs of the client, the decision makers, the end users. They're going to understand that better than you. And this is the absolute core to all of it. And that's why I think beyond just marketing, right? I'm thinking it's core to any business. If you don't understand the market, if you don't take that time, you will regret it. Maybe not in 6 months, but a year, 2, 3 down the road, because you're going in one direction right now based on what you think. And if you knew more about the market, you might go this way instead.
You're just literally going to find yourself casually on the wrong path and wondering, hey, where'd everyone go? Where's the party at? And you're like, you're not even in the right place. Yeah. Or you just fail outright. But also it can explain why a lot of marketers have that quick turnaround, especially marketing leaders. They're just in today, out tomorrow, and none the wiser about the industry they served.
Yep. So often it's seen that you get a metric from tops down, right?
Yeah.
Even as a CMO, a CEO will say, go, your new hire, go hit this metric. You're expected to show results in 30 days as a brand new leader. No 30, 60, 90 plan, right?
Yeah.
Like they talk about often during the hiring process. I'm not saying again, but speaking from experience from talking with friends, colleagues, whatever, there's a lot of lip service paid to 30, 60, 90 plans and giving you time and runway and stuff like that, even in a business where things have to happen quickly to help turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot snap your fingers as a brand new CMO coming in and expect that to actually happen in 30 days. Because if you do, you're guessing. You're throwing darts at a dartboard at that point. You haven't had the time to go and understand the industry, to understand the nuances of that business, even if you're an industry expert. Right.
Right.
There are no two businesses that are alike. And that's why it ends up becoming this rotating position constantly amongst CMOs and often CEOs too. They're thrown in and by the board maybe, and expected to turn a company around within 12 months. And they
Yeah.
just try something that they think is going to work. And they're like, well, I worked in my other company.
Yeah, which might have been a totally different industry, right? Totally
Yep.
different. Oh man. So someone listening to this goes, okay, maybe I did a little dabbling, but I've not kept up with it. I'm sure there's some that have said like, "Ooh, I haven't done enough at all." I've definitely neglected this. Other people, I did a really strong study when I first got into this role, but it's been a little bit. And I know you'd said, keep going back to the well and repeat. And you've also shared here and there different best ways of doing that. Do you have any favorites? Like, how do you approach this? How do you holistically approach, I need to become a nerd in this industry and learn it?
So the very first thing is just, and it depends on the industry, right?
Yeah.
What is it that you do? Like I worked for a large tech company before that made PCs. And so the very first thing I did was I went to Best Buy,
Yeah.
right? Like I went to Best Buy. I was already a little bit of a computer nerd, so maybe not the best example because I grew up building my own computers and stuff as a kid.
Right.
So I already knew all of it really, but I still went to Best Buy and I want to touch and feel the other brains, right? Understand how they function. And I wasn't even directly involved in like the product side or anything like that, right? What I was doing was just understanding what it is that I'm selling.
Yeah.
Right. And then that's the hands-on portion. The other one is thanks to the internet nowadays, just Google, right? Reading the different sources, different opinions. One of the things that I've always been taught throughout my education, right, before I even got into my career, was you have to go and look at differing opinions, different sources, and then create your own opinion. Just because you read this one book or this one blog does not make it the end all be all, does not make that person the ultimate source of how to approach any aspect of marketing or any aspect of company leadership.
And I think you even shared at the beginning that this has to be an everyone thing too. Like you can't just learn in isolation. So there's got to be that element of sharing what you've learned with the team so that you all benefit from it.
Of course, my leadership style is always, you've got to go and share and educate, right? As a leader, as a marketing leader, and again, if you're CEO, if you're head of operations, whatever it is, share what you learn, share what you know. Your job is to actually make the team below you, the people who work for you, better than you are. You want to be one of the things I will always remember when in my MBA program is we had a CEO come in and he said, look, if you're ever in a position where you're sitting in the room, you're the leader, and if you're looking around and you're the smartest in the room, you have failed at building a good team. Because your job is to bring it all together with a vision and help educate, but you want the experts in every single area that are going to teach you, that are going to really perform. That's how you're going to create a team that performs at their absolute best.
Right.
But you're going to know things as well. You're going to find out because they're involved. They're concentrating on ad creation. They're concentrating on SEO, et cetera. They don't necessarily have as much time. It's really on the leader to then say, I'm going to take the time and go continue studying more about the market, et cetera, and best practices, things like that, and then air those and encourage them, though, to always take a little bit of time and give them that time. That's the important one, right? You've got to actually give them that time for them to be able to go and learn a little bit as well.
Yeah.
On top.
Top down. That leader has to show that it's worth taking the time.
And it comes to that right there boils right down to company culture again. That's that kind of culture. If you say, hey, you got to go do this, and then you never give them the time, then of course you're saying one thing but doing another. And that's so critical in building an effective team, that you can't just say what you think. You can't just pay lip service to it. And again, I feel like what I'm saying is so obvious,
Right.
but I've seen it over. I mean, I've been in the industry. I've been in one way or another in the marketing industry for almost 20 years now. I've seen this repeatedly, different companies, different teams. And that's why I want to stress this today. And I hope
Yeah.
people out there are listening, because it's so obvious. Maybe that's why people ignore it. Right. I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I wish I knew the answer to why this is such a problem amongst companies at different stages, different industries, different sizes.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it? You know, it takes a level of caring and curiosity, right? A little combination of the two to want to extend yourself to. I guess some people are just more curious than others, and more, naturally just want to know more about that thing that they're in.
I wonder too. I'd be interested to like go to Europe and go like study a couple of companies there, kind of research. I wonder if it's kind of a culture thing too, right? That new, what is it, 996 culture. It's essentially working 60, 70 hours a week, right? That's like the new norm. The 996 is 9 to 9, 6 days a week. Well, if you are building that kind of culture in your company, I can guarantee you your employees aren't going to want to take any time on their own to go study. You are essentially, you're paying them probably enough, right? But they're going to be there to do their job, and then they're going to get the heck out. Right?
Right.
You are not building loyalty. You're not building curiosity. You have a workforce. That's it. That's it. Right. And I wonder if there's a culture difference there. And if we see the companies being built and led in other countries, if it would be any different. That's kind of my hypothesis, right? I have no basis to like compare that right now, but it could be a culture thing too.
Makes you wonder. Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder about that. Um, hmm. Well, there's like two extremes, right? There's the 996, and I don't really. It's more transactional. I'm just grinding through, and then there's the
Yeah.
other side of it where we actually care and we're learning. We're spending some of our own time. We could have been more productive on something, but instead we're gonna. It's like an investment. You're investing it. But to
Yeah.
your point, the payback is so much more. It's tremendous versus you might fail or you might just be okay.
And it's not like every company in the US is like this, right? But
Yeah.
this 996 concept is coming from the US and from the investment world and from the tech from the tech startup world. And, I think there are probably still a lot of startups and even larger companies in the US that don't adhere to this. And I think time will tell who's going to end up. That you might see, I think my prediction is you're going to see those 996s accelerate quickly, especially if they're just building a product like an AI tool or whatever. You're going to see them accelerate quickly, but then you're going to see others really build that value and that like a real brand. Instead of the 996s are going to be building tools, essentially, very valuable tools potentially, that these other companies that take the time to understand, to build real leadership and real teams, end up creating meaning, right? Real
Yeah.
brands that people are going to adhere to. That's we'll see. let's put a reminder for 5 years down the road and let's check in on that
Let's
one.
do that. Let's totally do that. Man, 5 years, but the way AI has been going,
No, it might even be 2
who
years.
even knows? Man. But you know what, and this is a good topic, the topic of learning and discovering. I'd so almost shift a little bit to your own learning. Where do you like to learn from? There's certain ways you like to learn. What are you reading these days? What are you listening to?
So one of my favorite things to do is go to trade shows and conferences. I'm in Austin, and there's something called SaaS Stock around May every year. This is not a plug. I'm not paid by them, anything like that. I just enjoy going there because I learn new things. There are tech leaders, SaaS leaders that come in that talk about marketing, talk about leadership. There are different tracks, right? But you're not forced to. I as a marketer can go to the CEO and start a founder track and just learn from them, right? And then there are companies out there with booths selling. What you have to actually pay attention to when someone's trying to sell you something on a service, marketing service, whatever it is that signals changes in the market, right? And how things are done. So one big one, there are 3 different, the SaaS stock isn't large. So of like maybe the 50 booths, there were 3 that were offering different versions of direct mail. And you might think, well, direct mail, what the heck? Why on earth would I be doing direct mail? And I've talked to a couple of marketers recently, some that are like, really? And very skeptical. Others saying, wow, that could be really cool. Well, these new startups that are offering direct mail services, it's not just, I don't have a piece of paper in front of me, not just here's a flyer, right? Like that's just going to get thrown away. Very thoughtful boxes with the contents pertaining to the industry. Like imagine you're the provider, you as a company, you sell dental supplies.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
You provide a way for dentist office, and you're doing this as a SaaS way with AI and everything. You've modernized how to purchase dental supplies. Well, you're trying to land new clients. You send them a box with, yes, some content, some very well-designed content, but also something cheeky. One of the mirrors they use, right, in the dentist office. And it says with a little card that says, we help you find the best deals in the tightest corners, right? Something like that. It's not just, here's a bunch of flyers in a box, right? Yes, you got them to open the box, but they're going to ignore the content now. And so these are the kinds of ideas. I'm like, this, and supposedly, what I've read is, I have not been able to verify this because we haven't done it yet. I'm planning on doing it in 2026. But they have an open rate as high as 95%.
Wow. Yeah.
Because the recipients are less likely to throw away a box that arrives. An envelope, regular envelope, even a little thicker, a flyer, that's not even going to make it to the CEO,
Right.
COO, whoever you're trying to reach, right? Never. Well, the box, it'll get opened by someone below the CEO potentially, right? But there's a chance they're going to pass it on. And then the response rates can be 7, 8, up to 10%. And if you think about the fact that 95% actually open it, that's huge. Open rates in the 15 to 20% range, especially cold emails and ads like that. You're like, holy crap, that's awesome. I got 20% open rate. And then your click-through rate is 2%, right? 3%. But when you're doing this direct mail, and in the end, your customer acquisition cost is actually the lowest with this direct mail. You might be paying more per mail, but it's better thought out. And you combine it with account-based marketing where you know who you're sending it to, right? Yeah. You're not just saying, I'm going to send this to 10,000 potential clients who you know nothing about. Right? It's a better way to use very targeted marketing. So that right there, sorry, I kind of diverged on that because I'm really passionate about it. I love that idea. I absolutely love that idea, but I would have never thought about it. And I didn't see anyone talking about it, right? Then I went to the SaaS conference and I saw this. I saw it in real life, right? So I will get my information. Like right now, there's a book I'm about to read. I just got this from a guy named Tom Shapiro.
Nice.
It's called Rethink Lead Generation. And this is actually, I got this during a dinner during the SaaS conference. And this person, Tom, wrote a book about rethinking how we create leads. This spray and pray method is done, right? A lot of companies still do it because it's extremely cheap. But in the end, you're going to get a lot of unsubscribes and people potentially market you as junk. So when you reach out to them with a more thoughtful email in the future or anything else, you're not even going to reach them anymore, right? So you could actually hurt yourself. You say, oh, spray and pray isn't going to hurt me, might as well try it.
Right.
Wrong, right? You could definitely do damage and you'll never reach those people again.
Right.
So really going through and rethinking it. And so, spending time on LinkedIn, there are people who put opinions out there who I've never met, never heard of, but it gets me thinking. And so I take these little bits, cherry picking, right? Not in a positive way, ideas. And I bring these together and I go, how can I apply those in my industry? How can I apply those in my job, right? Conferences, trade shows don't work for every industry. LinkedIn ads don't work for every industry. That's where, again, it goes back to know your market, know the decision makers, etc. Where are they buying? Where are they getting their ideas from?
Yeah, it's funny how it's like full circle, right? All the way back to it.
It really just comes right back to, though,
Yeah.
you can't do any of that if you don't know who they are and how they think.
And it's fascinating that yes, there's books, but you received a book at a dinner, and then also some of the takeaways just came from walking the booths and stepping back and looking at it from a macro sense, not even necessarily engaging with the individuals, but what is the marketplace saying? What are they shifting to?
Yeah. And I drive my wife crazy sometimes. Like we're walking through an airport, and so Virdee we do check-in software and hardware like kiosks, right?
Oh, cool.
I had to preface that real quickly.
Yeah.
I know you're going to ask later probably, but I had to because to explain this, we're walking through an airport and Southwest or it's Alaskan Air actually just created new kiosks. And so I'm stopping and taking pictures and even though we're not flying Alaskan that day, I'm like, I wanted to study it a little bit. I'm always thinking about how different. That's a completely different industry, right? But it's still something very similar. Checking in, right? And so I'm thinking about that. How are they marketing it? How are they positioning it? And then coffee shops, a kiosk there, or how the app functions when I order coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah.
I'm always have this kind of mindset of learning from anything and everything. And I don't do it on purpose. It just happens, right? Eventually, and that comes with time. You can't force that. If you're really interested in what you do, if you're really interested in marketing or operations or whatever, you will find inspiration and learnings without trying.
Yeah.
Right? You need to try in addition and go look for additional information. But I think the most I actually learn is by just watching the world. It again sounds cheesy, but there are commercials on, and I think I look at them from a marketer's lens and go, I can't think that's such an ineffective commercial. It's a really effective commercial, things like that. And yeah, so you can't just look at books. You can't look at one author or one source. You've got to be out there. And you learn probably 50 to 70% of what you're going to learn is going to be just around you.
Yeah, it's like the world is your classroom,
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, and CEOs, this translates to CEOs as well, and ops and things like that, because a CEO could be like walking around going, why is this company doing what they're doing right now, right? Just overall, like the product, the message, everything. Why are they doing that? It really seems to work. And I go beyond marketing. I was at a restaurant. I won't say which one because it was a negative experience, but
was it Cracker Barrel?
No. So I'm like, I went to Michigan, go Blue, and we were going to watch the Michigan game last Saturday. And for 15 years, they had shown it on the patio with the sound on. We'd always go, alumni would always go. And this time we went and they're like, sorry, management told us we can't do this anymore, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, there's no one else there. We were the only ones. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. And we're just like, so we left. We found a different bar.
What was the issue? Like
what kind of customer service? Like we're the only ones here.
Yeah.
Right. I understand it. We were like 2 out of 100.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cause then you gotta be scalable. You got your hands.
And if you would have told us, look, if other people show up and they no longer want to watch this, we got to turn the sound off. I'd be like, cool. But that was never the case for 15 years. It's always been cool. Nobody had a problem. But then and I probed a little bit, right? Because I wanted to understand from a customer service aspect, why are they doing this? Did customers complain? And it wasn't that. It's just management came in and said they have a new policy.
Okay.
So someone created that policy blindly.
Blindly, without going there and seeing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just like, okay, well, thank you, but you've now lost me as a customer. And that, we were bummed. We were bummed because, we love the one of that place, great wings, etc. But yeah, and it's one of those things. And I looked at it. This has nothing to do with marketing,
Right.
but as a leader, as an executive, I look at all those aspects. Right. It's kind of that's just how my brain functions, and I encourage everybody, because whether it's your industry, your area of expertise or not, whether it's ops, marketing, CS, they all work together in some way, shape, or form at one point. And by just keeping your eyes open and learning, questioning things, you get a better understanding of what not to do sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. When you see the wrong thing, and it's almost easier to learn from that than the right thing. Just, you don't even notice it. It just feels good. And
Exactly. Very, very, very well said. Very well said. A lot of times it's when something goes wrong, that's when you see it, right? You can learn more from failure than you can from winning.
Right.
Right. So every time you fail, you learn. And if you don't fail, you don't learn. You never win, right? It's kind of one of those things. You need that. So
yeah, you need that. As long as you can learn from it, then it's actually super powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Well, just like what the walking student, the life, the world is your laboratory. Who are you, man? Is my next question. Who are you? How do you know these things? Can you take me back in time to like little David days? Were you always like this, just learning from everywhere you were? What was it like?
Yeah. So, I'm originally from Vienna, Austria, and
No way, really?
yeah. When I was 6, business took my parents to Southern California, and then I grew up there a chunk and back in Austria every summer. And after undergrad at Michigan, I moved back to Vienna and did some consulting there, and then, back to the US for my MBA, and then landed in Austin for work. But throughout all of that, like I've always been hands-on, always wanted to learn. As a kid, I would disassemble my dad's computer and break it, but that's how I learned how to build it back and fix it.
Yeah.
Right. I've always had this concept of if it ain't broke, fix it till it is.
Totally.
Right? Yep. Nothing's ever perfect. Right. Find a way to fix it. And whether that's, I'm a passionate mountain biker, and I'm a competitive rower in my free time. And so always like tinkering and being like, how can I improve this? My form, something in the boat, something on the bike. Oh, it feels great. Now let me mess with this setting over here.
They tweak something here. Yeah.
Yeah. So always been this. It's always kind of been a mindset of mine. That's not saying that anybody listening going, well, I'm not like that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean, regardless of age, stage in your career, doesn't mean you can't start. Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be, you learn the same way I had blind spots. I still have blind spots, right? Everybody learns. I was a bull in a china shop when I first started my first job, and like hot tempered and not a good leader, right? I was never a natural leader. I was always the loudmouth, but I was never a natural leader. I was more natural, what you call a natural boss, right?
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to become a leader. So anybody out there listening and going, well, I just don't think that way. You can train yourself. You can encourage yourself, and you'll start finding, it's not like it's a pain, right? Like it's almost like it's a way to improve yourself. It's not changing who you are. It's how you think, how you function. And so I highly encourage people, like, don't be dissuaded by, well, my brain doesn't work that way.
Man, that's a wild adventure. Like back and forth, different continents, different countries.
Yeah. And I think that really, without having any control over that, right? It was my decision to move back to Austria after undergrad.
Yeah.
But the move to the US when I was 6, that wasn't, my decision. But it did help my development as with opening my eyes to the world, right? And that's just luck. That's just luck because most people out there do not have the money to go fly to Europe and do this. And my parents didn't have the money.
Sure.
They scraped together to send me back to my grandparents every summer as a kid so that I had a connection back to my culture, back to my home. And so I got lucky, right?
Yeah.
But we can, as adults now, we can do what we can, right? To like, if I can't travel there, thanks to the internet now, I can go learn about different cultures, learn about, there's a book, Bow, Kiss, or Shake Hands,
Hmm.
right? That I got given by my first manager when I was an intern during my MBA. And it talks about the cultural aspects of, or the aspect of working with different cultures out there that Americans are kind of bullish, right? Like, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. That's much different. You work with Spaniards. I'm Austrian, right?
Yeah.
So more aligned to the US style. We're very direct, but actually I had to tone it down. I was too direct in my first roles where people were kind of thought I was being a jerk, not caring enough about them. And, that's the Germanic way of working, where in Spain, you've got the time is completely shifted on when you work during the day.
Sure.
Plus, it's all about how was your weekend? You're talking before a meeting ever begins. And if you don't do that, you don't have that connection. That's often important. Um, and it goes like they're very interesting aspects of different cultures. Others will always say yes, and you actually have to get them to repeat it back because in their culture, they don't want to say no. Right. And so it's just like you have to get them to repeat it, or else if you're just getting all the yeses,
Yeah.
and then nothing actually gets done, right? You have to actually, that's just how it works in their culture. Super, super interesting. And you can, thanks to the internet, we can learn all of that without having to spend thousands of dollars traveling somewhere, right? We
Right.
have books, we have podcasts, we have videos, everything possible at our fingertips. You just have to want to go and learn that.
Man, and there's so much out there to learn too. Um, so my next question for you is a bit of a hypothetical question, if you're ready for this.
Oh yeah.
All right. So I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire.
Oh,
So
okay.
you come visit, do a customer event in Boston or something, drive north, get some lobster, some beer, and all right, it's in the backyard, covered in a tarp. So we use the time machine and we go back in time, and you get a chance to meet yourself 4 days after graduating with that undergrad. Economics, some German literature. You get to go meet that David. What do you say to yourself back then?
I would tell him, take a step back and start. I would tell him he needs to start learning more about the world now rather than waiting. I really put that off. Everything that I mentioned about learning how to be less of a bull, that didn't come until like my MBA time, right? 4 years later, 5 years later. And I think I really hurt myself. It was working in Austria, working in consulting. So very matter of fact, et cetera. But what I didn't learn was definitely didn't learn how to be a leader at that point yet.
Yeah.
And had no concept of, I thought I had my idea and my idea was right.
Yeah.
Right. And that really hurt me those first few years. Not necessarily like moving up in my career, especially at the beginning, just being a lower level consultant, but in building those relationships, right? And it's really a matter of that social IQ, right? Need to have that. Very important. Emotional IQ, right?
Yeah.
And in business school, we call it IQ and EQ, I think, emotional quotient, right? That concept of understanding that not everybody's like you, or not everybody's going to be okay or understand where you're coming from. And you can't just be like, well, tough for them. That's not how the world works, right? You're not going to succeed if that's the case. And it took me a little longer coming out of school where, book smart and everything, great. But that was missing. And I wish if I could tell him one thing, I'd be like, build that now, however you do it. Open the eyes, open the ears more, close the mouth, listen, ask for help, ask for guidance from the people around you that are the experts. And that have that experience. And yeah, I think that would be the number one thing.
Man,
Other than go put as much money as possible into Apple.
100%, right? 100%. Yeah, and who knows what will happen with the new CEO next year too. I don't know. But hey, well, do you think you would listen to that advice if you told it to yourself back then?
If I told it to myself, yes, because I'm the best, right? So if I'm just from the future telling me this, then I've got to be right,
Yes.
right? Yes, I would have, because it's not that, my family, my parents were not in like the business world or anything like that. Or my dad was in hotel management actually, but they didn't know the American way of doing things. I'd really been like not programmed, like mainly raised in the American system of school and everything. And I think it's a matter of, I didn't have the sources, like the people that told me, that helped guide me, right? It was all about education, not the soft skills. And I just never, and so I would have listened to myself, because I would have been the first one to actually tell me that, right? And yeah, unfortunately, like I said, 4 years, 5 years earlier, like, so right at an undergrad graduation would have been perfect timing.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never heard it said that way, but it's so true. Like, if you're gonna send anyone to the past to give yourself advice, send yourself. So at least you go, well, I guess I know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
they go, I'll listen to me. So anybody else comes back, you're like, what do they know?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think one thing that's really missing from undergrad education, doesn't matter if you're doing business, English major, whatever. One of the most important classes in my business school was organizational behavior and how to handle people, right? Those soft skills. I think we're sending top schools, Michigan, Harvard, et cetera, right? All these top schools are sending out absolutely top trained students out into the world at 22. What they haven't taught them is how the world works, right? Like, I think having a mandatory soft skills class, and actually towards the end, not at the beginning, or maybe bookend it, right? So you understand. And nowadays with technology, we can track that, right? Like, look at the things you said and did in this class, your first year, your first month in the university, in college, versus the last month or last quarter, last semester, whatever it is, and see how you've grown. What have you learned? If we were to do that, right, and we were to make that mandatory, we'd be sending everybody out there into the world much better prepared to actually apply what they've learned. And especially anything that, even if you're an engineer, people joke, oh, engineer, you don't have to be social or anything like that. Fine, but it's still not going to hurt, right? They have to go and engage with other people. It doesn't matter what kind of industry you're in, who you are, these kinds of skills. And I wish, if I had all the power in the world, that would be a mandatory thing that every university, every college has to do starting tomorrow.
Yeah. Man. All right. Well, I'm putting you in charge. You're running the university system now. That's a guarantee right there. Man. Well, hey, where can people reach out? Where do you want them to connect with you? Virdee, like, where do you want them to go?
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's a great spot. And feel free to reach out. I'm always happy. Like, I love learning. I love helping others learn. love just exchanging ideas. Through uh, the meetup, the monthly meeting that you've set up, I've actually had that happen, right? We've reached out to each other. I needed help. Someone else needed help, and we're giving each other advice. And it's so rewarding. I don't get anything out of it, right? I mean, I learn. Yes, it's not like I'm not getting paid for it, right? It's not all about the money. It's fantastic to be able to share, and just in helping other people, you end up learning more yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, man.
I was just at a trade show.
Yeah, tell me.
I was a couple of months ago, and I was talking to the CEO and founder of a small company, and she who had bootstrapped all of it, was really like barely any marketing being done, and she's asking me, and we talked for probably an hour, and at the end, one thing I realized, I was like, I actually know what I'm talking about. It's one of the, so rarely do you get to, right? You offer this help, but people just don't have the time. They're like, oh, sure. Or they think you're paying lip service to. Oh, reach out anytime. Reach out anytime. Well, we actually had time. And she's like, okay, I've taken up enough of your time. And I'm like, no, let's keep talking. And we talked for an hour, right? And then we set up more time afterwards. And I said, don't like, oh, I'll pay you for time. No, I'm like, just, I'm enjoying this. I like this. Like, when people offer, you should reach out. And if they were just paying lip service to it and it's an empty offer, well, that quickly will probably speak its way around, right? Like, don't go ask him. He's not actually going to help you. And so I really mean it. Anybody out there needs help or has ideas, you bounce ideas off of each other. It's fun. Reach out. Like, I enjoy it. And you start learning, like, you actually know a lot more than you think, because you're so busy again in your day to day. When you take a step back and you help someone who's with the big picture, all of a sudden you're like, huh. And you take a step back. It actually caused me to take a step back and say, I need to remember to do this in my job again, right? Because I've gotten kind of bogged down recently.
Yeah.
You've got to almost put a monthly reminder. Take a step back, put it on your calendar, whatever it is. Do what you need to do we need to remind ourselves sometimes, right? I need to remind myself to take a step back. And hence why that actually got me to go and book that trip to stay at a different hotel and take a look at their technology in a few weeks. So it snowballs.
Take a step back on a regular basis. And if you're listening to this, maybe this is your invitation to take a step back as well. Yeah. Take a broader look at what you're working on and the industry that you serve.
And sometimes, by the way, one like kind of semi-closing thought is sometimes changing where you are actually helps. I work mainly from home, got a great setup and everything. It's comfortable. However, sometimes I'll just go hit up a coffee shop. And my brain functions a little differently there with the background noise. And then I'm typing up ideas, strategies. I kind of just separate myself and I go and do that there versus doing it in the same place I've been sitting all day. So I encourage people to figure out where we don't think the same way in every location, whether it's in the office, at home, or at a coffee shop. Find, if you're going to go and do kind of like brainstorming, where do you do that best, right? My marketing manager and I, when we do when we set out our campaign strategy for the next 6 months, we go to a brewery.
Smart.
Have a couple of beers, right? This is like just bouncing ideas, relaxed. A beer or two helps, right? And we start getting creative and think about what do we want to do, right? And then the execution of it gets done back in the office the following week, right? Or the following day. We're like, okay, now how do we like execute on this?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
You got to get out, like whether it's an offsite with the team, whatever it is, right? But it's got to be in a relaxed atmosphere for those kind of big picture things. So your brain, at least I think it really helps most. We just had a big offsite where we had fantastic ideas, rented a house here in Austin and had brought people in from around the country. And it really worked.
Yeah.
Right? Because we weren't sitting around a table. We were sitting on couches and we had a TV had it projected on the TV, and we just talked, right? Sat out by the pool and talked. And we're taking notes, and that great ideas came about, and it wasn't in a formal atmosphere.
Right. Right. Because you had a change of pace in place, and your perspective got shifted completely. Dude, powerful. Man, David, thank you so much for coming on here. I feel like
course.
I've been in my own time warp with this conversation, and man, that's how things are just flying. Like, this is great. Thank you so much for coming on here, chatting with me, reminding me to take a step back and look into the industry and all that jazz.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right. And for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone else. Who needs to hear this? Who needs to get a little bit more curious and dive in and become a nerd about their industry? Give this episode to them so they can take a step back and do a deep dive into that industry. And with that, David, thank you again, sir.
Thank you, Casey.
All right, everyone. It's been a crazy cool, exciting episode of the Connect to Market Pod. We will see you all next time. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at connecttomarket.com. Connect to Market is sponsored by Ringmaster, creating podcasting communities that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth.